Hello viewers, I welcome you again to our channel. Our channel is the MILIMO'S, as you have been always coming in and watching us. I welcome you to this podcast today, to like, to subscribe, and to share. Today we are also going to discuss and to look at something that is happening. It's around us, that is happening day and night, something that is growing, something that is evolving, that we need to look at. What we are going to look at is how churches become a cult. How a church can become a cult. People talk about cults. You have heard people talk about cults. Oh, okay, this particular congregation is a cult. This particular congregation is a cult. First of all, what is a cult? What is a cult itself? Do you know what is a cult? We need first of all to identify or to define what is a cult. And then once we define what is a cult, we can now know the characteristic of a cult and how people become a cult. So in essence, a cult is typically a group of people who come together. A group of people who come together to deeply devoted to a person. As I've said, they are deeply devoted to a person, an individual, or an idea, or a belief, or a system, often in ways that set them apart from others. It sets them apart from whatever is happening around. A cult is not only a church, it can also be a business group, a people coming together. It can be a society. You have seen secret societies. Those are cults. Those are cults because their beliefs is deeply rooted to a person or an individual or an idea. Ideologies. People come up with ideologies, and these things they entrench them in their lives, and they are dear to them, and they isolate themselves from the rest of the people, and they become like a sort of an isolation from the rest of the world. If it is a church now that we are talking about, a church becoming a cult is that it now tends to walk away from the true teaching of the Bible, and it becomes extreme. It goes to extreme. So as before we proceed, I just want us to read from the book of 2 Timothy, where Paul was writing and was instructing Timothy to be aware of these things, because it is something that has been there from the beginning. Cultic practices has been there from the beginning. And if we are not careful, and we've not learned the things that we learn, we may end up being a cult ourselves without knowing. So Paul writes in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse number 1, I charge you in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom, preach the word. Now, in the church, we must preach the word. Preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season. Reproof, rebuke, and encourage with every form of patient instruction. For the time will come, the future tense, when men will not tolerate sound doctrine, but with itching ears, they will gather around themselves teachers to suit their own desires. So they will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myth. Now, this what impressed me. Like, how will people know that these teachings are wrong, but yet they will still embrace them? At times, people themselves who want to hear something totally different from what the Bible says, they themselves gather people, or they gather the teachers around themselves, and these teachers, as they come to teach them, they teach them the things that they want them to hear. As in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse number 10, where the people told the prophet to tell them a lie, not the truth. The prophet to tell them a lie. They would be so happy to hear and to be under the prophet who speaks to them a lie, not the truth. And the world that we are living in now is the same. They want to hear a lie, not the truth. And once now the people who have the art of now manipulating people. They see an opportunity that these people, they desire something deeper than what they have. Then they come in with a teaching or an idea or an ideology, the way things are done. And then particularly in churches, okay, particularly if it is a church, the spiritual principles, the church will move away from the spiritual principles, from the biblical truth, and they will now revolve around a particular person. They might elevate this person to names. They will call him either prophets or bishops, whoever the name they will give to that person. It might be a biblical name, but it will be occultic in their practices, because they will just do the thing that they want them to do. They want to hear. And their church, this church, they obey that person so much, an individual. They just shift to an individual, not to the teaching of the Bible, but to the individual. And this individual grows so big or too big that he is the soul, he wields power. Whatever he says is the truth. Whether the Bible speaks it or not, but what this guy speaks is the truth. That's a cult. Now, how does a cult treat its people? After they have elevated one person over the other person, and this demands absolute obedience to the leader or doctrine. Independent thinking is discouraged and punishment. Listen, people who are in a cultic situation or in a cultic teaching, they have no questions. Whatever is said, it is final. Whether it's wrong or it is true, it is final. What the leader has said, that is the final thing. And that's where most people have found themselves in trouble, because when the leader says, even drink poison, they have gone ahead and drunk that poison because the leader has said. The leader can command the people to die a mass destruction, and they will, because the leader has said. They have no questions. They discourage the questions. Another thing, what the cult will do is that the leader is seen as invaluable, often with divine or exclusive authority. They claim to have the revelation from God. Their revelation is direct from God, it's not from any other person. You have seen these people around us. They say all other churches have no power, but we have the power. They will dictate the members in their financial area. You must give a certain amount of money. They will describe the amount of money, and that amount of money that you are supposed to give, you will give them. Even if you don't have, you will have to pledge. You will have to pledge that you will give. And in the financial control techniques, this money will be in bids, or will have a particular figure, and that figure will be completing something in the person who is giving. They will tell you, okay, you give 7 or 700 or 7,000 or 7 something, and this 7 they will manipulate it in a manner that it's completing something. It's a cultic teaching. And isolation of families and friends. When you see your family member isolating themselves on the basis of religion, you be worried. They might have just entered into a cult. They are isolating themselves from the group, or from the family, from friends. This guy, you are with him in a good manner, but the reason that they have received a particular teaching, they isolate themselves. Or they sleep too much. They call to sleep too much, and they wake up, they become secretive. People just become secretive. And when you call there, they don't have only one book, the Bible, but they have so many books. Other literature are added into the scriptures. They have other teachings. They say, okay, the Bible is good, but this one, we want you to read this. So in their teachings, there is a repetitive way of doing things. They repeat the things. They repeat the things, because when you repeat something, it now comes into you, and it gets into the space. Repetition of some prayers. Let the Holy Spirit guide you. in whatever you are doing. But when you are going to pray some kind prayer and some meditation, also it might take you into a cultic organization. It's us. Another thing that the cults will do to their people is that they isolate them from the group, from the mainstream of the people, or from the mainstream of the religious. They say us versus them mentality. We don't do things like them. They are not for us. They are not in our camp. They are not in our group. You will never see them in other people's crusades, in other people's organized religious activities. They just follow their own. And they will do those things knowing that they are just manipulating you so that you can deeply find space in those things. And the group, the cultic church also breaks family. You know, the reason why churches have so many single people or divorced families, and the pastors are just tolerating it, they are letting it happen. Someone comes into the church, they say they married some time back and they were divorced. And the church, they break families very easily. Family break bonds. Members may be told to cut ties with even the husband and the wife. Cut ties with that man or cut ties with that woman is evil. It is evil for you to be in this church and you have your wife on the other church. Loyalty to the group takes precedence of everything. They are so loyal. Whatever the leader says, it is taken very positively and it will be implemented to the latter. That is how cults become. The doctrine. How about the doctrine of a cult church? If you want to know that a cult church, it is rigid, secret teachings. It's a rigid teachings. Something that seems to be visible to you, it is false. To them, it is the true gospel. Unquestionable doctrine. You don't question. They have unquestionable doctrine and they have unquestionable members. Some few years back, I attended a church, and when I entered into this congregation, people were were sitting in a certain arrangement. There is an arrangement of how you sit. You just don't enter into the way we come into this church and we just sit wherever you want to sit. There was an arrangement, and ushers are very proactive in taking you to a place where you are supposed to sit. And they will ask you, if you are a visitor, they will also ask you, are you a visitor? Yes. If you are a visitor, they will also take you to a place. And in this church, when I entered the church, the door was closed. And when those people who come after the door is closed, they will not allow to come in. They will not be allowed to come in. And it will take like 10 minutes. You are just silent. No one is talking. No one is doing anything. You are just there. I look at the people who are there. They were so tense. And for me, being a person of questioning and questioning everything, I asked my neighbor, what are we waiting? And there was no one singing, no music, nothing, no praise. We were just quiet, all of us. All of a sudden the preacher came, and as the preacher came, he just noticed me that I was a visitor. And he started preaching. He preached with a lot of power, as we can call it. According to the people, they call it a lot of power. And as he was preaching, he preached, and he never moved away from me. And I was seated there looking at him, and he said, some people are just out there to walk into other people's church, coming and going and coming and going. You cannot come here and go out and come here and go out. So as I was looking at him, I saw that this is not the right place for me. I stood up and I started walking, and he called me. He asked me, hey, where are you going? Come back and sit down. You know, if a church something like that happens, brothers, you must be worried. I was so worried. My heart was beating, And I came back and I sat down, but I was not satisfied. I wanted to go out as quickly as possible. I managed to go out, but with a fight. It was not easy for me to get out of that church. I managed to get out, but it was with a fight. So no questions in those cultic churches, no questions. You don't question. Whatever you are told to do, you are supposed to do that way. I want to take this opportunity to tell the churches and the members of those who call themselves Christians, these things are happening. Most churches have turned into cults, and people themselves are making people to be leaders of the cults, because you guys, you want to hear what you want to hear. Let me give you some of the things that are red flags that churches may be becoming a cult. Number one, only our leader hears from God. When you hear that statement, they say that only our leaders is the one that God speaks to. Be worried. Only. It's never only. God speaks to all of us. So we must be able to listen to God, all of us. And then you say, don't talk to the outsiders about what we do here in our church. So you keep a secret of the things that are happening, even to your husband or to your wife. When you go to your church, you don't tell your people what is happening. What they will see is just you will vanish away. And they go to church, they ask them, they say, no, we don't know this person. Your family doesn't understand your faith. They are holding you back. So if we don't understand the faith of our people, of our child, of someone that we love, how are we going to prevent them from becoming into a cultic or joining a cultic teaching? If you leave, this is what another thing that a cult does. They threaten you. If you leave, you will be cast, or your life will not be good. So you live under the fear of you being cast, or you live in fear of you being destroyed. So the cult is so dangerous. A cult is so dangerous, and we need to look at those cults, and we avoid those trends that leads to cults. When you see a preacher or a teacher insisting on a particular way of doing things without biblical reference, you must question that faith. And when you see someone, also cults is whereby these people comes in and they are wrong, or they are living in sin. You see, when you compare with what they do and what the Bible say, it doesn't match. But they justify their actions of sinful nature, of sinful actions, sinful life they are living in, and they justify it. And people who also share to their way of life, they come in and they begin to live the same thing. And that's how a church becomes a cult. A church becomes a cult when you, as a people, when you are going to elevate a leader, one leader, and when you are going to shift from the true biblical teaching to the person that you like, your finances, how you are going to handle your finances, and the separation of the family members, you separate them from the family. Have you seen these things happen? Yes, they are happening. They are live. I have real examples where I know people who have separated because of a religion. You don't join a religion, two of you, a family, and you leave the religion when you are separate. That is a cult. When you come to a church, you come to a church to be taught, to be protected, to be put together, not to be separated. So I have seen people who joined the churches, some particular cults, that they were too a very happy family, but they left separate ways. I have seen young men join these cults. They never get married. They never get families. I have seen people with money join these cults. They were rich. They were enough. They were okay. When you join a cult, you will come out poor. Your money is gone. You have met this guy, the rich guy. The problem with a cult is that it increases while you decrease. And when you decrease, you are headed to death, to dying, because they are there to kill you. They are not there to bring life to you, but they are there to kill you. So, as I come to the end of our podcast today concerning this topic of cult, I want you to be aware that cults are real. Churches there have turned into cults. They no longer preach Christ, they are preaching themselves. If you see a preacher who has put himself or herself in the position of Jesus, run. It's a cult. You will not survive there. Your business will go down. Your family will be affected. Your relationship with your friends will be affected. So I just advise you, look at the things that I've given unto you, interrogate them, question. I like when people come into our congregation, they ask us a lot of questions, and we create time to answer. Even in this podcast, even in this postcard, if you have a question, just ask, or if you have something, just write down there. I will come back to it and I will discuss it again with a large group, with a large number in this congregation. We are blessed that we can answer the questions. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Once again, I ask you to subscribe, to like, and to share, so that when I post another of this kind, you will be the first one to know what is happening or what we are talking about. Thank you.